Hello everybody, Shaf, Rasul here. If this is the first time you've ever been on my channel or you've watched one of my videos, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a former Dragon on BBC Dragon's Den Online and I'm a business columnist for a national newspaper. A few weeks ago I started a new series on YouTube called Ask Shaf Live. Now, the purpose of this series was my viewers asked me questions about business, about finance, about property, about entrepreneurship, about wealth generation, and I try and answer the questions. What I was thinking the other day was, I need to show people that all the stuff that I talk about in my YouTube videos, that I actually apply it in real life. So what I've decided to do is do a special version of Ask Shaf Live. What I plan to do is talk you through a deal that I've done recently. It's a property deal, but it's a property deal that I've done with a real entrepreneurial mindset. So I want to talk you through the deal, I want to tell you how I found the property, I want to say, do you remember I said in video such and such that I do this or somebody should do that? This is when I did this in real life. So I'm going to talk you through the deal, I'm going to tell you how we acquired the property, the strategy we used to acquire the property, the various options we had with the property, how we added value to the property, and then basically how we sold the property. I'm going to pull in bits from other videos as well, because there's been times when I've talked about things and you'll be able to see, oh yeah, Shaf talked about that in that video, and you'll see how everything that I talk about all comes together. So anyway, enjoy guys. Please leave any comments you've got, any questions you've got below, and I'll answer them in a future video for you. Thank you very much. In this series, I try not to overload my viewers with facts and figures. But one report from 2019 from the British Retail Consortium really startled me. The British Retail Consortium revealed that high street vacancies were at their highest for over 4 years and they were sitting at over 10%. And we can only imagine what the retail and commercial property landscape is going to be like after the pandemic. In today's episode, I'm going to apply some of the questions and the knowledge I've tried to share with you guys and give you a real life case study of a deal we've done. We're going to take the deal from the inception of the deal, how we acquired the building. We're going to go through how we basically renovated the building, how we found a tenant, how we added value to the building. And then from there, we're going to go to how we tried to exit our investment, how the exit failed because of the pandemic. And finally, we're going to give you what our plans are for the future. In fairness, you probably aren't shocked by the report from the BRC. All you have to do is walk around the town centre and you see all of the vacant signs that are available in shops. Shops are boarded up, they're neglected, and the whole town centre is like something from a zombie movie. It's just a nightmare for landlords. Unfortunately, with commercial property, to a landlord, a vacant unit will mean they will be responsible for the vacant rates. They will have to pay rates to the council. They will be responsible for insurance. They will be responsible for service charge. They will be responsible for any maintenance. Their insurance costs are likely to go up, and the insurance company will want regular visits to the premises, and if the landlord is quite far away from the premises, he'll have to pay a third party to do that for him. So when a landlord does finally find a tenant, it's absolutely vital that they find a tenant basically that can stay within the terms of the lease. Most commercial leases are for anything up to 20 years. So it's absolutely vital that a landlord finds a tenant that'll be able to pay the rent for the terms of the lease. Otherwise, they will just rack up costs again. There is a way, basically, landlords can mitigate their risks when it comes to finding a commercial tenant. This is called covenant strength. It's the ability of the tenant to pay basically the rent and all the other obligations under the terms of the lease for the duration of the lease. Here's a quick definition and a real life example of covenant strength from a previous video. In this video, I talk about a wee shop in Gorgie Road in Edinburgh that I picked up and asset managed and sold. We instructed a commercial property agent, a letting specialist, to find us a tenant. And believe me when I say this is where the magic of commercial property happens. Our premises, our wee shop on Gorgie Road, could be let to a number of potential tenants for our asking rate of £9,000 per annum. It was vital that we got the right tenant, as this would affect the value of the property as an investment. If we had let it to Joe Blogs, who had just set up his business, the yield could be 14%, putting a value on that building of approximately £64,000. Let the same building to Greg's on the same length of lease and the same rent, and it could be worth 7%, giving the same building an investment value of £128,000. So, it's in the landlord's interest to let the property to a company that's as financially sound as possible. This is called covenant strength. The more sound the tenant, the better the covenant and the investment value of the property. Remember the phrase covenant strength, as it'll come up time and time again in property speak. Now, there is an added bonus for the landlord, because the better the covenant strength of the tenant, the higher the investment value is of the property. But you guys know me, I like to think differently. I like to think out of the box, and I run my property investment business slightly differently. You guys need to pay attention to this now, because it's really important. If you want to do well in property, get your notepad out, basically, and take some notes from this video. But you know me, I'm not like other commercial property entrepreneurs. I like to do things differently, and I like to think outside the box. Let me give you a bit of background, because it has a direct impact on how I do things these days and how you guys should think if you want to make some serious money doing property investment. I set up my company eNet Computers in 2000. It was a distribution company, and I needed a new warehouse fast, but no one wanted to rent us one because we were a new company. Eventually, we had to settle for a warehouse on a month-to-month license after paying a massive deposit. Not ideal, but we went with it. By the way, the vacant possession value of that warehouse was just under £400,000. If you've forgotten what vacant possession value is, let me give you a wee reminder. The first rule of commercial property that you need to know is this. The same building can be worth a different amount of money depending on whether it's tenanted or vacant. If it's vacant, the building has a vacant possession value. If there are tenants, it has an investment value. Meanwhile, we were going from strength to strength. In 2001, we had a post-tax profit of £80,000. In 2004, it was 2.3 million. Not bad going, eh? Now remember those figures when I tell you that we couldn't get a 10-year lease in 2000. In 2001, had a landlord given us a 10-year lease at £60,000 rent per annum, their investment value would have been worth £600,000 with a net initial yield of 9.5%. In 2004, had a landlord given us a 10-year lease at £60,000 rent per annum, their investment would have been worth £760,000 with a net initial yield of 7.5%. The net initial yield shows the annual rental income as a percentage of the gross purchase price. That's the same building with the same tenant paying the same rent, but the investment value varies so much. Now, I know that seems complicated, but it isn't really. Just imagine if the landlord had had the foresight to sign me up for a 10-year lease. His investment value in the building would have gone up massively. You also have to remember the increase in investment value is in addition to the rent collected by the landlord every month. Remember the example of the wee shop on Gorgie Road that I gave you earlier? We purchased it for £65,000 and then did some modernisation. Our agents let the property on a 10-year lease to Luke Anthony Hair Academy. They weren't the only ones having a good hair day. As soon as the lease was finalised, we put the property on the market for sale as an investment and accepted an offer of £110,000. That represented a yield of around 8%. We sold it for £45,000 more than we paid for it. Now, when I'm looking for tenants, I try to find the next eNet. I'm not interested in month-to-month leases. I'm a pretty good entrepreneur and I understand trading companies far better than your average commercial property agent. It's not brain surgery, just find a tenant for a building who potentially can do amazingly well, and the better they do, the more you can exit your property investment for. Of course, like any other business, it still has risks. If they do poorly, you wipe out your investment value. So let me tell you about a deal I did. On the 4th of January 2019, I received an email from a commercial property agent offering me a deal on a property at Napier Square in Livingston. It was an industrial property. His email read, "Shaf, I have this. Low capital value at £25 per square foot for a quick deal. Could potentially shave some off this to help you with the vacant rates, etc. Suggest refurb, split the units and potentially remove the single-storey office projection to the front, creating dedicated parking / yard space. Rents in Livingston, sub 5,000 square foot units are £5 a square foot. Let me know if this suits." So remember what I told you guys in episode 4 of Ask Shaf Live. Just to jog your memory,
I'm going to stick the clip in here. It's about how we use retained agents.
I remember you once mentioned to me that you can retain a consistent trusted agent on an agreed percentage fee for a second opinion regarding a property purchase that may come from a different surveyor. Please can you explain? So basically guys, what we do is we have a firm of chartered surveyors who are our retained agents. They're our trusted advisors, okay? So we pay them a retainer for advising us. So anytime I need a second opinion, I need advice, anything like that, I pick up the phone to them. Simple as that. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. It can be like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll just pick up the phone to the partner and say, excuse me, what do you think of this? So how it works is, let's say John Smith offers me a property deal. I look at the deal, I do my own due diligence on it, and I say, yeah, this building's worth £100,000. Okay, you notice I'm always using £100,000 because it's dead easy to work with than like £1,365,000. So it's worth £100,000. So then I go to myself, right, I'm buying this for £100,000. I can chop the building up. I can make it into small units. I can let them out, and then the building will be worth £200,000. Now, what I want to do is I want to get somebody to sense check my figures because I can be quite optimistic sometimes. So what I do is I speak to our retained agents. So they will then give me an opinion, and I'll say to them, guys, what do you think of this? Is this worth £100,000? And they'll say, yes, it is. Or they'll say, Shaf, no, it's not. And it's not worth £100,000 because of the following reasons. And they will also point out downside risks that I may not have seen. Okay. Then they will actually value that building for me. They will survey that building, and they will give me a comprehensive report which allows me to make an informed decision. Now, I have to pay 2 sets of fees to that. I have to pay a fee to the person that introduced the deal to me. So if I bought the building for £100,000, I would pay him £1,000. Then I have to pay a fee to our retained agents. Okay, but it's really, really worth it because often I will look at a deal and I will say, right, I'm going to buy this for £100,000. I'm going to chop the building up. And our agent might say, Shaf, do you know, if you did X, Y, and Z instead, it would save you this much money. And I think it would increase your investment value by Y amount. So that's why I always have retained agents who advise me. So that's quite a good strategy.
I passed this on to our retained agents, Graham and Sibbald, to give me an opinion. Their response was, Shaf, in and around its current asking price, it's too expensive if you want to be able to make a meaningful profit. I forgot all about this unit until the 25th of September when I received an email from another chartered surveyor who was acting as a property sourcer. Have you seen this unit on Napier Square, Livingston? Been hanging around for a while, needs a bit of a refurb, thinking the asking price now is 350 to 360k, possibly less if it's a very quick turnaround. One for you? So again, I picked up the phone to our retained agents and picked their brains for 10 minutes about the price. Their advice was buy it for under 300k if you want to make a meaningful profit. So I sent an email to the vendor offering £285,000 along with proof of funds and an offer to settle the transaction quickly. So essentially we were offering a cash deal. Here's a little clip from episode 5 of Ask Shaf Live to explain the significance.
Jay, hi Shaf, myself and a friend are looking at investing in property. What would be the best thing for us to purchase our first property? Either finance the whole thing ourselves or go to the bank for help. Jay, if you're saying to me you've got enough cash to go and buy your first property cash, I would buy your first property cash. Add value to it. So if you buy your property for £100,000, you add £20,000 in value to it, and then you say, I want an LTV of 50. Basically, you're borrowing £60,000. But in the long term, you always want to have some form of leverage in your portfolio. That's you using leverage to increase your wealth. But I think from reading between the lines, I think you've got enough money to buy your first property for cash. Just do that. And at any point you can borrow against that property. Obviously, the other advantage you have of buying your property for cash is often you can go and do deals where you say, I'm a cash buyer, and you might be able to buy the property cheaper, especially now that there's a recession coming up. Yeah, so I've done this in the past. I'm selling property and somebody offers me £1 million cash, or somebody else is offering me £1,025,000 and they need to get bank borrowing. I will always go for the £1 million cash as long as they provide me with proof of funds. So you may get yourself a discount, and at any point, remember, you can borrow against that property.
Our offer was accepted. While our solicitors were doing the legal work, we instructed architects to start drawing up plans to split the building up. This was our plan A. It would generate the best return on our investment. Our plan B was to let the building as a whole and offer to refurbish it for an incoming tenant. The day after we paid for the building and took ownership, we had the first of 3 viewings for people who wanted to rent the building. The first was a startup business called the Window Supply Company, and I loved the business from the first day I met the owners. Straight after I met the owners, I pivoted from our plan A. Here's a little excerpt from my Speak Like Shaf video on pivoting to explain the process to you. Today, we're going to check out the word pivot. For viewers of a certain age, this word will forever be associated with Ross from Friends. The scene where he's trying to manoeuvre a couch up close with help from Chandler and Rachel while repeatedly shouting, "Pivot, pivot," has gone down in TV history. Ross wanted his pals to change direction to get to the end goal, and that is exactly what pivot means in a business sense too. A pivot refers to a change in the business, usually to help it get out of a tricky period. It's essentially a shift from the original business plan because circumstances have changed. Maybe there is more competition, maybe the market has changed. We agreed to refurbish the building and let it to the Window Supply Company. Here are the terms we agreed. Here's a historic interview with one of the directors of the Window Supply Company. I want you to listen carefully to see if you think I made the correct decision for this building had I found the next ENIT. When dealing with a new startup that wants to rent a building with a chunky rent from you, this is the information you need to ascertain. Does the management team have the skills to execute the idea? Do the management team get along? Does the team understand the business they're going into? Is the business well capitalised? Is there any obvious holes in the company's business plan? Is everything in place to make the business model function smoothly? And finally, how do you get on with the team as a landlord?
I'm Ron Hepburn and I'm with the Window Supply Company. I'm one of the directors. We've just recently started up. For the past 20 years I worked with Stevenswood, which I was a founder of, which we sold 2 years ago. We're now 2 years out of our restrictive covenant and we've decided to come back into the market and making trade windows.
I understand you've invested quite a lot of money into your new venture. Do you want to give us an idea of how much money you've actually invested in this business?
Yeah, the directors have invested $500,000 of cash, of their own cash, into the business. We've introduced it as capital as well to give ourselves a bit of credibility. It's not in as directors' loans, so it's on the balance sheet, so that's allowed us to get trade accounts open with lots of suppliers that would otherwise be a little bit wary or couldn't get any cover on us for their insurances.
I told you ages ago about my company ENIT, how we couldn't rent a warehouse because everybody said we were a bad covenant. So tell me, do you think you're a bad covenant?
No, we've got a fantastic history. In 20 years we never made a loss. We always made a profit. Our sales went up every year. We were a partnership until we had a 5 million turnover. So we had everything on the line personally until 2007 when we incorporated. And even then, when we did incorporate, because the company had a value, the Inland Revenue taxed us and created a deficit in our balance sheet which almost sank the business because nobody could get any cover on us at that point. So we knew how important it was to actually introduce the cash as capital. And all of the directors have all chipped in this time, so you know, everyone's in, everyone's committed. And
do you want to just show us around the building?
Yeah, certainly. If we go through this way here into the warehouse. And in here we have 20,000 square feet of manufacturing space. We're about to put in a machine that runs the full width of the factory for cutting the profile, and then we'll weld the profile in here, make up the windows, corner clean it, put the glass in, and then the windows will go out to dispatch at the far end of the factory.
You have a bit of a historic relationship with this building. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Originally we bought half of this unit in 2002. We tried to buy the unit next door, but we ended up having to rent that for a period of a couple of years, and then eventually we managed to buy that as well, and then we knocked it through into one. When we moved to our bigger factory from here, we used this to manufacture kitchens. We were making 55 kitchens a week out of here. When the new guys took over the old company, they didn't do kitchens, so this lay empty for 2 years. It was perfect for us because it's got all the air, all the electrics in all the right positions, we were manufacturing 800 windows a week out of here, so we know we can do that again. And luckily we had bought the unit next door, and when we heard that Shaf was buying this, we ambushed them and asked if we could rent this unit from him. So Shaf is now doing this up for us, and we're renting it from him, and he's also bought the unit from us next door as well.
How's the order book looking? I know you haven't started yet.
We've spoken to a lot of our old customers that are no longer dealing with the guys that bought our old company, and they've all promised to give us business going forward. Once it's all been renovated, we'll do another wee tour and you can see what a great job Shaf's done. Great, this way. We had a lot of problems with leaks in the past coming in through the flat roof, which is all getting renovated. So some of the worst, to give you an idea, some of the worst of the problems in here, this room's particularly bad. But this roof is getting replaced, and the big problem is there's a box gutter that sits behind a parapet up there, which is lined in felt, and it just keeps constantly leaking. So that's kind of wet.
What are they going to do in there?
They're going to take the parapet off, and they're going to put up the roof as a normal roof with a gutter, a normal gutter. So if it does ever overflow again, it'll go straight over onto the road and not into the building. So that's happened on all of them. The walls are all pretty badly marked. This side is actually better because we've had some heating in here, and because we use this side a lot more. This is our IT hub.
Oh, this will be your IT hub.
No, it isn't at the moment. But again, the roof's pretty knackered in here, but again, that'll get sorted. Now, I'm going to take you right over to the far side. There's a box gutter that runs right along the front of the building there, and that's all been leaking into the building too. So again, the roofing guy is going to take that parapet off, and he's going to put a normal gutter along here with external downpipes instead of the internal downpipes which it currently has. So take it through here. So again, this is the internal downpipes that come from the box gutter, but you can see where it's all, the water's penetrated around there. It actually gets worse. Watch your feet with it. So again, in here you can see, this is again all damage from the box gutter. So again, this is the internal downpipe, which again is causing a major problem. So that's all going to need to dry out, which it will. In here, I don't have a line in here, but you can see the box gutters caused all this damage. And then this is the old kitchen showroom in here. I'll take you out the back and just let you see them. That's where the box cutter comes out up here. So okay, that'll all go, and then new roofs on these and this bit and the box cutter away, so we should be problem sorted permanently.
Excellent. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on and what's going to happen in the warehouse? So what's going where?
Yeah, well, what happens is we're going to store the profile as it comes in Unit 12. We're going to take the fence down between 12 and here, and we'll bring the profile in. We'll have a big saw cutting prepping centre up at the top. So we'll cut all the profile, then it will come down and it will get welded, and then it goes into a corner cleaner, and then we'll put all the hinges, the handles, the locks. The guys have changed all the skylights so you can see the difference in the light from if we changed these skylights in years gone by. But what a difference. This is the flat area down here.
You can see what a difference the yard is already. This was in a horrific state when we purchased it.
Yeah, it's still needing a fair bit. The guys are filling in sort of holes and things like that, and they're going to paint this back wall, and you can see they've actually been doing a bit of work on the top here, so this is going to be really smart and presentable in the not too distant future.
Excellent. And are they on target to be finished by the
Absolutely.
31st of March?
Well, I don't think we're the box gutter, but realistically it's going to have to dry out and things, so we're going to have to work around that a wee bit with you going forward. But
okay.
yeah, they'll do what we need to be done to get us up and running and you know, making windows by then.
Excellent. Perfect. Thanks.
Now, as part of our deal with the window supply company, we had to refurbish the premises. The process we used to do this was we hired a professional to deal with managing the refurb. We hired a company called Torridon to deal with it on our behalf. Here's an interview with Kenny Telfer, the principal at Torridon, to explain the process. Kenny, listen, thanks for coming on. Now, the reason why I brought you on is I'm doing a sort of case study on Napier Square. Do you want to explain to my viewers what the relationship is between my companies and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're Torridon Quantity Surveyors. We do quantity surveying and project management. We manage a range of projects from small single house extensions all the way through to big 30, 40 million pound commercial projects. So we met a number of years ago now and have worked on a few schemes together, doing mainly commercial property and looking at renovation and adding value to that. So we are acting as cost advisors and programme advisors.
Excellent. Over the last 18 months, I think you've done 3 substantial projects for us, haven't you? You did industrial estate in Hoyk, and then you did the two warehouses in Livingston, because we bought a second one after the first one you advised us about. And then you've been involved in Project Contempo throughout all its various forms.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So this particular project that we're going to talk about, Napier Square, you've got to remember a lot of my viewers are complete novices, right? So can we avoid the technical terms and the technical jargon and all that sort of stuff and just strip it back down to basics? So do you want to tell my viewers about the first time I called you and how the conversation went and what your remit was about Napier Square?
The instruction from Shaf about Napier Square was that he had a property that he had purchased, and in essence he had a tenant ready to go. He needed to get the property in a condition where he was able to let that out to the tenant as soon as possible, and he was asking for our help to enable us to do that.
Do you want to talk me through what the normal process would have been for doing this, and then how we short-circuited the process?
Yeah, so in essence, what you would normally do is you would first of all do a cost plan to check on the build costs of the project to make sure that it was affordable. Then you would go out to tender to usually 3 or 4 contractors to make sure that you're getting value for money. You go out to the marketplace, they send you a price back in, you check the price, and then you pick, generally speaking, the lowest or the best value contractor, and you get into a contract and carry out the works. But of course, in this case, you had the tenant ready to go and time was of the essence. From a basic point of view, we're talking about the cost, time, quality triangle. You can have any 2 of those things, but not all 3. So Shaf's remit for us at the time was time was of the essence, and of course, quality. So what we needed to do was ensure that we could get a contractor as quickly as possible for the right money and the right quality there.
Okay, so do you want to talk us through the whole process? So let's start out with what the building was like.
Yeah, so the building has been empty for a number of years. It had fallen into quite bad disrepair. There was water ingress, there was water damage, there was actually moss growing in some parts of it. It was in quite a shocking state. So the key thing for us was to get the contractor on board and let him see the work for himself. For them to actually see what the building was like was key to the most accurate price from them, and make sure there was no surprises later down the line. When we first went out to site, and the key thing here is a site visit, so the building works were also over a really large area, and what we did there is we looked at a plan drawing, and we started in one corner of the building and just worked our way through all the different rooms with the contractor, listing out every single repair that had to be done. And by capturing absolutely everything that had to be done to make the building wind and water tight, but also a quality building for your tenant, it means that we're able to capture all the work. We know how much it's going to cost when we get a price from the contractor, and we're able to satisfy the end tenant to make sure that all the work that needs to be done is done.
And I think the end tenant was getting advised by a professional as well.
That's right. So there was a dilapidation survey done by, I think it was DM Hall, and the end tenant had hired them to act as their advisor. And we worked closely with the chap on the other side of the fence to make sure that we were in agreement about exactly what works needed to be done to satisfy the tenant. And all the way through that, we were in close dialogue, having site visits and meetings over Skype and email and things like that to make sure that all the works were done to their satisfaction as well.
We ended up with quite a good price for getting the refurbishment works done. Do you remember what it was?
Just over £100,000 to renovate the project, which is, yeah, very good value for money.
And it was delivered as a minor works form of contract, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. So that's a key thing actually for your viewers, is to make sure, even on a small project, you can get like a homeowner's contract from JCT or SPCC online. So a homeowner's contract's great for small works. In this case, it's a commercial building, so a minor works contract. But really, being clear about what the contractor can expect from you and what you can expect from the contractor is absolutely critical and absolutely key. So there's no arguments further down the track.
I know, and originally I think it was going to be a 3-month contract, but you managed to cut that down a bit.
We ended up taking 2 months. We had a lot of good weather for a start, and because we were working with roofs and leaks and things like that, good weather really helps us. In addition, just working closely with the contractor to make sure we're doing things efficiently and in the best manner, then it can really speed the process.
We also had liquidated and ascertained damages in the contract. Do you remember that clause? How does that work?
Yeah, so when it comes to your property, let's put it in simple terms. Let's say you've bought a house and you want to renovate it. Now, you've got a lease on another property that you and your family are living in, but you need to renovate this other property that you've just bought so that you can move into it and it's livable. If the contractor takes a month longer, you're having to spend an extra month renting out the place you're in. So what you do is you put what's called liquidated and ascertained damages clauses into the contract, and basically that means if the contractor is late and it's the contractor's fault, they have to pay your costs for them delivering that late, and your costs are actually the cost of your rent in this particular example.
So I think we set that at about £1,200 a week from recollection.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, I think that's right. And that would have been the direct loss to you from rental income or perhaps something like that. So
the other thing we agreed was staged payments with the contractor, which is quite common for the sort of work we do. Do you want to just briefly talk about that?
Yeah, so stage payments, there's 2 ways to manage payments in a construction contract. If it's a really long construction contract, you would just agree to pay them monthly. And every month you go to the site, you go to the property and you value the work that's been done to date. So let's say they had done 50% of the flooring and 25% of the walls. You take the rate that's in your schedule of works or your bill of quantities produced by your QS, and you just times it by the 20% or the 50%. And then you go all the way down the list of the schedule of works, and when you get to the bottom line, that gives you the actual figure that they're due to be paid in that period of time. As I say, with the bigger, longer projects, you would agree to pay them monthly right up to the final account date. On this one, it was quite a short project. I mean, originally, as Shaf said there, we were thinking about, 3 months? We got it down to 2 months. Because, again, quite a small contractor, quite a small project, we wanted to make sure that their cash flow was good, and we were able to make regular payments to them, but also it links to the work that they've done. So we said, when you finish the roof, we will pay you X amount. When you finish the inside, we will pay you X amount. And that way you're linking it to the work that's been done, so you're at less risk, and actually they know exactly when they're going to be paid.
I remember you carried out all the insurance checks and everything for us on the contractor.
Yeah, that's a really key thing. I mean, the last thing you want is for a contractor to be working on your home or working on an investment portfolio and something to go badly wrong and you find out later that the contractor wasn't actually insured. So it's really important, before you actually get into contract, just ask them for a copy of their contractor's all risks insurance and make sure that that's actually in place and at the correct date. More often than not, it'll be just a simple certificate. You can check it out. It also has the value on it, so make sure that the value on it is equal to the value of the works as a minimum, but also consider the value of the property, because if something significant is damaged there, you might want to just make a claim on something, if part of the property was damaged.
Okay, so once all the work had been done, what did you do for us?
Once the work had been done, we went out to the site and walked around it and agreed it. First of all, agreed with the contractor to make sure we're happy with it, and then invited the tenant surveyor to come round and walk around it with us as well. The key thing is to make sure that we're happy with the work the contractor's done, to make sure it's to standard, and then that the tenant's happy with the work that's been done and that's to standard. And then once that's all been agreed, you can start looking at the final account process. The final account process is simply paying the contractor what they're due. And in our case, because it was stage payments, it was the release of the final amount of money there. Also, as well as that, you do the schedule of conditions at the start of the job, so you can see there's a big hole in the roof over there. We want to make sure that that's filled in properly and it's dealt with in accordance with the designs and specifications. And at the end of it, you go around that schedule of conditions and check it all out again. And that was done jointly with the tenant surveyor to make sure, as I say, that they were happy that hole in the roof has been repaired to my satisfaction.
So the final schedule of condition, when the building was handed over in a repaired condition, was a photographic schedule was prepared, and
That's correct, yeah.
and we attached that to the back of the lease. Now, we then ended up acquiring the unit next door, Unit 12. I think you were involved in that, weren't you?
That's what we did, is carried out a high-level cost analysis on it to see what sort of budget might be involved in renovating that. It was a very, very small project, but again, it was just a case of going out, doing a direct negotiation with the contractor. And because it was quite small, we didn't go any further with that. We just advised on the initial stages. Definitely one just for us to have a quick look at, make sure that you're happy, and hand over to your more than capable team there.
I think that's really all the questions I have for you. Before I go, do you want to just tell my viewers what your company does?
Yeah, in essence, we look after the costs of your construction projects. So when you go out and you have an idea about what kind of project you want to build or renovate, we'll have a look at your plans and we'll put initially a high level cost to that, and then as the designs are firmed up, we'll come in and get more and more detailed costs. We then go out to tender for contractors, we manage the contractors' costs coming in, the tender review process, and then we'll value the works every month to make sure that the contractor's getting paid what they should be getting paid and you're not paying too much. And that way you're not at risk from paying over too much for the contractor every month. We'll then agree the final account at the end of the job to make sure that everyone's happy and that the works have been valued in accordance with what's actually been done. So essentially we are your construction cost specialists.
Kenny, thank you very much for coming on.
Since then, the window supply company has been a great tenant. The directors are great guys. They even bid at a charity auction for me to work for them for a day at their premises.
You only need to know one fact, ladies and gentlemen. Such is Shaf's love for social bite. He has been the top fundraiser for this charity, not once, but 3 consecutive years on the bounce. And Shaf has offered his unique business talents, ladies and gentlemen, for a day in your business. He will literally do anything. He will wash the floors. He will make the teas. Ladies and gentlemen, the man is yours for a day to do as you will. May I ask you to put your hands together for lot number 1's legend, that is Shaf Rasul, ladies and gentlemen. So we're not pissing around with a small change, guys. We're looking for an opening bid for you corporate giants. £1,000 to get me started. Thank you so much, madam. Who'll give me 1,500? Who'll give me 1,500? Thank you, sir. Who'll give me 2,000? Who'll give me 2,000? 2,000 to you, sir. Who'll give me 2,500? You will, sir. The man in the white suit. The man from Havana. Who'll give me 3,000? 2,500 is the bid. 3,000. Sir, I don't know if you noticed. 3,500. Did you notice how quick he bid, sir? Do you know why he did that, sir? Because he doesn't respect you, sir. 4,000. That's the attitude, sir, because you're a winner with a capital W. 4,000 is the bid. 4,500. From the 4,500, 5,000. No one gets the legend for less than 5 grand. It's going to take 5,500, sir. I know you're used to bullying people in an auction, sir. I know you're used to being a winner each and every time. Look at the array of stunningly attractive women on your table, sir. If any one of them is your other half, you know you're batting massively above average, sir. And now we ask you, sir, have you got one final bid to push table 8? Going once at 5,000, going twice at 5,000 on 18, going 3 times. Is there a £5,500 bid at 5,000 on table 18? Last chance saloon, going. 5.5 on that, Jeff. Thank you, sir. 5,500 is the bid. Need 6, sir. Need 6. You've been outbid by a janitor, sir. Going on to 5.5. 6,000, sir. 6,000. Thank you, sir. 6,500. Going once. Going twice. Going 3 times. You're sitting on the legends table and you're allowing a man who looks like Nobby Styles to outbid you, sir. Going. Last chance saloon, sir. Sold on table 28.
We took the opportunity to purchase the adjacent building, Unit 12. We purchased this building vacant for £125,000, spent several £1,000s renovating the yard and let it on the following terms to an MOT centre. Now, I have mentioned previously that everything I own is for sale and that I treat my property company like a trading company. Here's a quick excerpt. If I had to start my business from scratch again, what would I do? I would start a trading business. So a trading business is a business that buys and sells goods and services. I like trading businesses. Even my property company to an extent is a trading business because I've got a core portfolio which I hang on to for income. Then I've got a portfolio which I buy and sell assets, improve assets. So I like trading businesses. Do you think the fact that I was friends with the directors stopped me from selling the investment? Nope, we put the investment up for sale. We concluded a deal to sell the premises just as the pandemic struck. A buyer pulled out. That's life though, isn't it? Now, I make a point of speaking to the directors of the businesses that occupy our premises. I spoke to the director of the window supply company and he told me that they would have to close their factory down for 3 months due to the pandemic. Would I consider giving them a rent-free period? Now, in any negotiation, it has to be a win-win for both parties. The director of the window supply company is a seasoned businessman and he knew this. Did I tell you that I've read in the press that the window supply company has just received an investment of £2 million? The chances of them leaving the premises in the next few years are non-existent, but they had a break option in their lease. A break option is an option which allows the company to terminate the lease, so it affects the investment value of the building. In this case, the company could terminate the lease in year 5 of their 10-year lease. We came to a deal which suited both parties. We would give the window supply company 3 months rent-free and the window supply company would remove the break. So for us, we lost 3 months rental income but increased the value of our investment, and the window supply company had removed a fixed overhead of the rental while the factory was closed. Now, what is the future for this property? Well, let's look at the options. 1. We have no borrowings on the property and we could move it into our pool of core assets. But unfortunately, the property doesn't sit in my main company, it sits in another property company, and I would have the cost of transferring it. 2, we could do a retrospective BRR on this. So effectively, we could refinance the building. The challenge with BRR on this is, we don't know if we would get maximum value for the property due to the pandemic. We leave it for sale, collect the rent, and do nothing while the market stabilises. Whatever I decide to do, rest assured, I will do an update video to this one.